when I first started, I had the misconception of, man, mobile home parks, trailer parks are
Yeah, yeah.
scary, right? And in fact, the very first one that I bought, I went in with the maintenance guy. The owner sent his maintenance guy with me, and we went around and met all the tenants. And he said, "Man, why are you scared? Why are you shaking?" I was like, "Man, I've never done this before." I actually had only owned two rentals at the time. I was like, "I've never done this before, right?" And
Yeah.
I'm going up to these mobile home parks. This guy hadn't collected rent in a couple of years, and I was like, just frightened, right?
He hadn't collected
Um,
rent in a few years.
yeah, yeah. He had
Wow.
moved on to laundromats, and anyhow,
Okay.
he was making money there. So anyhow, I going to these places that I'd never been before.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a middle class, upper class family, and never had gone inside a mobile home park. I was scared. Well, what I found out, though, from a misconception standpoint, is all the people that live in these are just like me and you. They want a good roof over their head. They want somebody to take care of them and help fix water heaters when they break and fix roof leaks and so on. No different than me and you. It's just, they're at a different economic level and they're trying to get to the same place that we're trying to get to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, of course, are there a few bad apples here and there? Yeah, but most of the people are really good people that's trying to make a living and wants a landlord that's going to help take care of them. And if you do that, then you're going to have a really happy resident. So I'd say the misconception is, oh man, mobile home parks are scary. There's really bad people in them, and in my experience, not really the case.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's probably the biggest misconception.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of really successful mobile home investors, and most of them have really good things to say. Obviously, you're going to have bad apples here and there, but that's in any space. So
Right.
yeah, that makes sense. So I'm curious how this transitioned then into land home development. Like, where did you just have extra land that you were like, okay, let's put some more pads on, or what did that look like, and why are you kind of I guess focused on expanding that?
Yeah, so I'd always looked at mobile home parks as the long term investment. When I started buying mobile home parks, I was, I think, 39. And I always looked at it as like, all right, well, it's a 15-year note and it's going to be paid off in 15 years. But between now and the end of 15 years, probably not going to make a ton of money, right? I'm going to make some money, but not a ton. So that being said, we were flipping houses and flipping properties and wholesaling a little bit. Well, part of the mobile home in South Carolina, if you sell more than two mobile home park or mobile homes, sorry, you're supposed to have a dealer's license.
Mm,
So I got my dealer's license. I saw, hey, well, I could buy these mobile homes for a pretty affordable price direct from the factory. And so at that point, I saw what I could buy a mobile home for, like anywhere between $60,000 and $80,000, and said, well, if I can get a mobile home for that, a nice new double wide, 1,500 square feet, then why don't I look for some land and I'll do land home packages. And so started doing that and never looked back. Started buying more land, putting more new mobile homes, sell them as a package, typically to first time homeowners
mm.
and VA buyers, USDA buyers,
Oh, VA
and
loans will cover mobile homes as well.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't realize
yeah.
that. That's
You could get about any loan on mobile home.
wow.
We set them up so they're HUD certified. We
Okay.
do title them, and so they'll qualify for financing.
Okay. So you're not putting new mobile homes on your parks necessarily. You're just buying parcels of raw land and then putting, improving it enough to put the utilities and that sort of thing, and then putting a new mobile home there.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
And I mean, I will put new homes in the mobile home parks too when it makes sense.
Oh, okay.
But in this particular strategy, it's putting homes on scattered lots, or maybe we do a small subdivision and selling the home and the land together to the end buyer.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the spread that makes all that, the work that goes into that, worth it for you?
Man, I'll tell you, we make at minimum, we're going to look at trying to make 30K.
Okay.
We've
Wow.
made as much as 75K on a property, and really depends on the location. Some markets we can sell for 225, other markets we can sell for 300.
Mm.
and 300 still first time home owner, which is wild, but that's the market we're in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty good spread, and the work involved. You say, man, what's to make it all worth it? I mean, honestly, I'm once I've learned this process and gone through this process, I'm only working probably 10 to 20 hours per project,
Wow.
and so the return on your time is really good.
Yeah, that's incredible. One of the things that, so we do a lot of short term rentals, and I work with people who do short term rentals, and a lot of people like to set up, they kind of have a dream of setting up sort of a glamping site or, multiple tiny houses on one, large lot.
Hmm.
And what I've realized is that the cost of the infrastructure sometimes exceeds the structures themselves, to get a road in there, get water, get a, septic, get electricity, all that stuff. Um, how do you keep those costs low when you're looking at a parcel of land so that it doesn't, eat up all your margin?
Yeah, that's a good question. So typically, we're looking for all road frontage lots, and so we're not. The largest development I've done is 9 lots, and it was 9 lots all facing a road. I think it was like 2,000 feet of road frontage, so it
Oh,
was
okay.
pretty big.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have to do any interior roads. And then so from there, we really just have to do a septic tank, which is pretty affordable, and a water tap with the water company.
Got it.
Um, Now, there are times when we look at larger parcels and try to decide whether we want to do interior roads. And to your point, a lot of times the infrastructure will make it a deal that's not worth pursuing, or the cost for subdivision is stormwater preparation and other things the county will make you do, make it not worth it.
Yeah. Got it. And do you have to put these on a concrete pad, or do you have to pour an asphalt driveway, or is it just, you can just put them right on the lot itself on the
So
dirt?
we'll bring the house in and we'll create a pad for the house out of compacted soil, and then we can do concrete footers for the piers, or we can use ABS plastic engineered pads for the piers also. And so we'll put it on piers just like a house would be put on,
Hmm.
and then the house itself that is comes from the factory will then be set and blocked and tied down to those piers.
Okay. Cool. And then just a gravel driveway.
Typically, we do a
Yeah.
gravel driveway. Again, if you talk about like what my expectation would be, of course, I'd like to have a concrete driveway or an asphalt driveway. But a lot of times, these buyers are okay with a gravel driveway, and they're just happy to have the first home. They never thought maybe. I had a closing yesterday. It was a lady. She never thought she'd been renting for a few years. Went through a divorce. She thought, man, I'm never going to be able to afford a house again. And she was able to move into a house. It has a gravel driveway. She's ecstatic about moving there, and
Yeah.
she's moving in this weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that keeps costs down. All those things add up. You start adding all these extra things on there like that. So that makes sense. And then in terms of working with cities or counties on this, do you run into restrictions where there's like, no, it has to be stick built, or is it total? I mean, if you're allowed to build a house, you're allowed to drop a mobile home there.
Yeah, so we'll run into restrictions every so often. In South Carolina, it hasn't been that difficult as long as we're outside of the city limits.
Okay.
Typically, if we're in the county outside of city limits, then we're okay to put a manufactured house. Um, Sometimes there are deed restrictions, so maybe 20 years ago, the whoever sold the property initially put a deed restriction against mobile homes, because 20 years ago the stigma against mobile homes was a lot different than what people believe about mobile homes today. And so we will face some deed restrictions every once in a while. But in terms of county government, at least in South Carolina, it's fairly easy to find land to put on. Other
Okay.
states like Georgia, North Carolina are a little tougher in some counties, especially as you get closer to the big cities. But there's plenty of opportunity out there.
Yeah. Interesting. Is there a difference between mobile homes and manufactured homes?
Mobile and manufactured really can be used interchangeable.
Okay.
Within the manufactured housing category, let's say, you'll
Okay.
have HUD certified home, which is really historically what would be called a mobile home. And then separately, you'll have a modular home, which is built to the difference is it's built off frame. It comes off the frame on site via a crane, and
Mm.
then it's built to home building standards, slightly different standards, so it can qualify for conventional financing.
Oh, got it. Okay,
Well, no,
that
I
makes
should
sense.
say qualify for conventional finance. It qualifies to be appraised against a site built house, a modular would.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
same standard. Got it. Makes sense. And you talked about the financing for these. Like you kind of mentioned when you were buying the mobile home parks, you did owner finance initially for that first one. I kind of look at financing and like, especially with what you're doing, is sort of like there's the front end financing to purchase the lot or the mobile home park, and then there's the back end with the end user, would use, which we talked about, that VA or HUD loans, or their USDA loans are all acceptable. So for you though, on the front end, is it mostly, are you getting a lot of owner finance, or how do you scale this up? What capital sources are you tapping into?
That's a great question. And I need more lenders. So if you're listening and you're a lender, please reach out. But in all seriousness, we use private lenders. So individuals like me and you who have maybe made money in real estate or made money as a doctor or in business or whatever it may be and wants to diversify their investments, that would be a good case. And we'll lend money per project or
Mm,
borrow money per
okay.
project with a private individual. We also use hard money. So we've partnered up and developed relationships with hard money companies that will lend on the development. And then the last would be banks. And so there are some banks, as we've developed relationships, that will fund these also.
Okay.
And of course, you can self fund. We work with, or know, we've got a lot of people in our network that will just self fund it and develop their self.
Yeah. Okay. But that, in terms of owner finance, is that pretty common when you're buying this stuff?
For mobile home parks, it is. It's very common. I've had a lot of, I'd say 50% of the parks that I've purchased were owner finance.
Oh, okay.
For land home deals, not really. We always fund the purchase of the land up front.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I noticed the name of your company is Howell Sons. Are your kids working in your company now, or?
So I've got two boys. They're one's a freshman and one's a junior in high school.
Oh, okay.
They started doing cold calling for me a couple summers ago and did a great
Nice.
job. And my junior, he loves marketing and loves sales, and he's really asked. They're so busy with school and running and athletics and such that they don't have much time during the school year. But in the summer, they do a little bit of work. And they actually own a mobile home in one of my parks. I sold to them on owner finance, and
Nice.
so they get to collect rent, and they get some experience that way too.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast have kids, and they're doing this for their kids, but also want to incorporate their kids into the business. Because it's one thing to just hand the keys to a kid after, as you're like passing away, and it's like now you got all this potential wealth and all these properties, and they have no idea what to do with it. And then I think it's very different to start to incorporate them into the business, kind of like you were talking about. So what advice would you have for somebody who has kids about your kids' age to try to get them to maybe start to become interested, or start working within the business?
Yeah, I mean, they're around me a lot, and I work from home, so they hear me talking about business quite a bit. And so I think it starts there, right? You make it part of the normal everyday conversation. And then beyond that, what I did was look for opportunities initially when they got to an age where they could probably help, looking for areas where they could help, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I thought cold calling was a really great skill, and so I had them help with that. I had them help with preparing letters to mail out,
Mm,
and that's a simple task. They started that probably when they were, I think the youngest probably was in elementary. Folding letters and putting envelopes together and putting stamps on, and incentivize them by paying them a little money to do that.
Yeah.
And then, as they continue to get older, like looking for ways that, more advanced work maybe they can help with. My older son, well, both of them actually now had recently got into creating YouTube videos, and they'll post a YouTube short and they'll get a few thousand views in a few days, which is wild to me. Um,
Is it
and
on real estate?
No, they're just
Yeah.
dumb stuff like,
Yeah.
kid stuff, sports, mostly sports.
Yeah.
But no, it's really good content though, and
That's great.
funny, right? Really funny. But anyways, that being said, I'm like, hey, Bobby, why don't you maybe one day follow me around and you can make some YouTube shorts for me, right?
Yeah.
And he's excited to give that a shot.
That's great. I think that's such a great balance. I talked to a lot of people who said growing up, their parents had real estate, and basically they were their kind of slave labor, where it was like every weekend they'd bring them the properties and they'd be scraping, paint off the wall and repainting and cleaning and stuff. And they saw all the headaches, but never saw any of the benefits. And then, I think there's the opposite side of things, which maybe my kids kind of see now, where it's like, they're not doing a whole lot of work for it, but they get to live a pretty flexible lifestyle that we've created.
Right.
And so I think as they get older, my intent is to have them, start to do some more of the day-to-day tactical stuff to see, where that mailbox money, quote unquote, comes from. It doesn't
Right.
just show up. I love that you're kind of right. You're incorporating them a little bit, but yet it's not like they're your slave labor that is just doing all the ugly stuff. Because those people, that they hate real estate. And I talk to them,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh man, my parents had properties, and their parents were trying to get them into real estate, and it had the exact opposite effect because they never saw any of the benefit of it." So,
Yeah, I
um,
love that. And whether it's right or wrong, I mean, I trying to teach them the things that I like doing and the way that I think business should be run, really. And
yeah.
again, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's like I don't go out and change door locks, right? Or I don't go out and mow the grass, right? Because I'm trying
Hmm.
to work on the business.
Right.
And so, maybe I should get them out there on a lawnmower. I'm not sure, but I think there's more valuable things that they could be doing for the business versus going out and doing maintenance.